Well, hello again and welcome back to my channel. Now, I've decided to put this video together because recently I've received some lovely feedback from clients who've purchased one of my serving boards, charcuterie boards, cutting boards, whatever you want to call them, but in particular to the actual finish. They're very tactile and lovely and smooth. So I thought I'd actually take you through the process of how I go about achieving those results. Now, I'm not going to describe it as any kind of trade secrets because I suppose really I'm not in the trade and I don't keep secrets either. And I promise you it's not a selfless plug or promotion for my new conditioning wax, because you will have your own finish. But if you're interested in trying this, then there is a link in the description to my website where you can purchase a tin. Okay, so where are we going to start? Well, you've got your board cut to its correct dimensions, so the first step obviously is going to be sanding. Now, depending on how rough your piece of timber is, you're either going to start at 80 or 120 grit. And I really do recommend, if you can get hold of these sponge pad savers. They're not too expensive and they come in a variety of different sizes. I recommend them for two reasons really. On the flat surface, you're less likely to be too aggressive in parts, which leaves it lovely flat and smooth. But I recommend it more for the actual round over parts because it gives a more consistent round over with the sponge bit going around the edges, as opposed to if you're just using a standard sanding pad and disc where you could be too aggressive in some parts and too light in others. So take your time, work your way through the grit. So if you started at 120, the next step is to move up to 180, and you don't need to denib in between. Now again, take your time, there's no rush at this point, or if you want to get a good finish that is. And you can use the pencil technique like I've demonstrated here, so it shows you where you've missed your sanding parts and where you've completed it in others. And when you are happy with what you've got as your finish, you've then completed the sanding part. Now the next step for me is what I believe to be the most important part, is actually removing the debris and the sanding dust from the board before you continue. Now people have their own techniques. Some people use a shop vac, some people will use a microfiber cloth. I really would suggest you don't use white spirits, or what they call in the US mineral spirits. Although the majority of it does evaporate, it is a solvent thing, and if that's getting into the wood fibers on a cutting board or a chopping board, I don't think that's a really good mix, to be honest. Now, in my humble opinion, by far and away, the best way to remove dust from your board is to use the humble tack cloth. Now you can get hold of these, again, not expensive, about 50, 60 pence each. They've got multiple surfaces so you can fold them over, and they, for me, are by far the best way to remove dust from any wood surface. What I would suggest you do, if you think, well, no, I'm all right with my own technique, is do what you would normally do. Buy one of these, do what you'd normally do, and then once you've finished your method, run a tack cloth over it and see how much more dust that actually gets picked up. Now, once you've done that, it again has a lovely feel to it, a lovely tactile feel to it. It's almost like got a little waxy feel to it at this stage. So we're ready to move on to the next step. And at this point, what I do is I take the boards and I apply a liberal amount of mineral oil across all the surfaces and edges, flip them over, and then I allow that to soak in for a few minutes and then wipe off any excess with some kitchen roll. I'm going to cut into my own video at this point because I sense people reaching for the devices to tell me, you're doing it wrong. I've seen the Wood Whisperer. We don't do flood coats now. Let's just calm down a minute. Yeah, I've seen that video as well. Really interesting content as ever. Particularly liked it when he applied the heat, because that might help to answer one or two questions I had last year with the Osmo UV protection oil on the cladding. Remember the problems I had? There was no reference to mineral oil in that video, and mineral oil is being used here not as a finish. I'm flooding the wood with mineral oil because of its antibacterial properties. So really getting into the pores there to offer more antibacterial protection for the wood, and the finish comes later. So once the mineral oil has been applied and the excess wiped off, it will then be left overnight, and then I'll come back to it tomorrow to do the little finishing touches before adding the finish. So let's not confuse this with the Wood Whisperer's most recent upload. Okay, back to the video. Right, it's the following morning and the mineral oil has been soaking into the boards overnight. Now, as you can see, I've put some kitchen roll above and below the boards as they've been resting overnight. The reason I do that is if any mineral oil does rise back up to the surface, it soaks into the kitchen roll and it doesn't pool on the board across the top. So at this stage, The boards are feeling very, very nice indeed, but we're going to raise it up to the next level. So let me clear all this away and I'll show you the final step to achieve that perfect finish on your boards. Okay, we're into the home straight for achieving that perfect finish, and what we do at this stage is to take a piece of 400 grit sandpaper and just very lightly, I wouldn't describe it as sanding, you're just literally rubbing it down all over, nice and easy. Excellent. Now once you're happy with that, you're returning back to your tack cloth. Now I got these off Amazon, I'll leave a link in the description if anyone's interested, and go back and remove again that just little fine layer of dust you've created with your 400 grit. Let's get rid of all of that. Now that now has a super silky smooth finish to it. So now we're ready for the final step, which is to apply our finish. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on that. And the final and most satisfying part of this process. Now, as I said before, I'm sure you'll have your own go-to finish. Just make sure that it's food safe, but I've been using my own now for the best part of nearly 4 years, which is my food safe wood conditioning wax. And it's a blend of carnauba wax and mineral oil. Now, I'm just going to apply some of this on. Just using a lint-free cloth, just again, you can be quite liberal with this part. And I'm just going to leave that for a few minutes to allow the mineral oil to penetrate into the wood fibres again, and the carnauba wax just to form that nice seal across the top. Right folks, that's just about it for this one. Maybe you picked up a couple of hints and tips to incorporate into your own practices, or if you start to use my method, I can guarantee you it gives you excellent, consistent results and a beautiful finish to your boards. So if you've enjoyed this video, maybe you consider giving it a thumbs up, or even maybe subscribing to the channel. We're just about to hit 10,000 subscribers, which is just mind-blowing for me. I'm absolutely over the moon with that. If you'd like to support the channel in a one-off donation, I've got a link in the description to a buy me a coffee, or if you'd really even consider subscribing to the channel, go over to my website where we've got the members only section, which gives you behind the scenes footage and some blogs and ad-free content of these videos. Also on the website, I've got my own cutting board conditioning wax, so my food safe wood conditioning wax, so maybe you'd like to pick up a tin of that while you're there as well. Okay, as ever folks, take care, look after yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.